All right, it being the hour 6 o'clock, I'm going to call the merger study committee's meeting to order. And I will invite the MAUSD board and the ANSWD board to call their meetings to order.
So it's 6 o'clock. I'm going to call the Mount Abraham Unified School District Board to order.
Okay, it's 6:01. Let's call to order the ANWSD School Board.
Thank you. First, we want to really thank both boards for coordinating to make this happen so we could all be together tonight. It's helpful for us to join and we can have better conversation with all of us together. No, it's not easy with everybody's schedules, so really appreciate that. In terms of our study committee, like all of you, we care deeply about the education of all the students in our district. I know initially the boards wanted us to decide on a shorter time frame and to get a vote if we were to recommend a vote by March. We determined that we needed more time to do the work we needed to do. The study committee members have given up a lot of time to make sure that we could have the conversations and study that we needed to do in order to feel comfortable with putting together proposed articles. What we've done at this point is we've put together what we deem to be the best set of articles that we can at this point, but there's still, we want to hear from you as well as other stakeholders to see if there are ways we can tweak the articles that might make them better. We've, as a committee, have not always agreed on everything. We've had some difficult conversations, some really hard conversations, as you guys know. This work is hard. Not everybody agrees. But I think in the end that we've made some compromises that have made the draft articles better than they would have otherwise been. So our goals for tonight are to give the boards dedicated time to learn about the articles as they're drafted and to also get feedback from both boards and us as a group. We will be listening. We will not necessarily be answering questions. Our job here is really to hear from all of you. And if there are questions, we would take those back and try to get information out to the community as a whole. I want to especially recognize tonight the work that committee members have done in putting together our presentation. Hopefully that will answer many of your questions. So we really look forward to working with all of you this evening.
Yes. Okay. My name is Martha DeGraff, and I think we should do some introductions, but I cannot have my back to people when I'm talking to them. Sorry. It's just a thing. So I think we'll start with our committee first to go around, and we can say who we are and where we're from, and then we'll move on to Virgin. So Dustin, how about you?
Hi, everyone. Dustin Corrigan. I'm from Bristol.
Keith Laurel, I'm from Virgins.
Sarah LaPearl, I'm from New Haven.
Kevin Hansen from Bristol. I also got a split personality tonight because I'm on the Mount A board as well.
Oh, me too.
Same, but from Virgins.
I'm also a Mount Abraham teacher.
I'm Erica Andrus. I am a Harrisburg resident and parent of 2 students at the high school here.
Mary Kate Kelly, I am a Moncton resident and I am a lacrosse coach of the combined Mount A Virgins girls lacrosse team.
Tracy Rend, I'm the consultant who has been working with the merger study committee. And just want to make sure after introductions that we take care of item 3 and give that quick input or update on
Yep.
state board communication before we dive right
Yep,
into?
yep.
Okay, thanks.
I'm Becca Coffey. I live here in Virgins. I'm also a teacher at the high school, and I have 2 children in the district, a high schooler and an elementary school student.
I'm Ed McGuire. I live in New Haven, and I retired from Mount Abe after 20 years of teaching in 2008.
Patrick Green, live in Lincoln, have 2 kids at Mount Abe, and am the superintendent for MAUSD.
Sheila Soul, superintendent here in Addison Northwest. I do not live here and I do not have children in this school.
Carla Fry, sorry I'm late. I'm a parent from Addison and I have kids in the middle school and elementary school.
And who do we have on Zoom? Have anyone from our committee on for the weather?
Yeah, Liz.
Liz, okay.
Oh, we can't hear.
I'm Liz and I'm from Bristol.
Excellent. All right, so for Jen's.
We're up.
Addison Northwest.
Mark Hanning, I'm in Virgins.
Mimi Clark, Waltham. Christina Macklin, North Dartford.
Mary Jacqueline Sullivan, retired from Mount Abe, graduated from Virgins, and have 2 grandchildren in the district.
Calvin Granley, student representative.
Claire, I'm from Harrisburg. Hey, Amy Kittredge, Addison.
Hi, Kirsten Delacruz, Anton.
Chris Caher, Harrisburg. I'm John Strout, and I live here in Virgins. That's us.
MAUSD.
I'm Dawn Griswold, from Moncton.
Patrick Lawrence from New Haven.
Erin Jipner from Bristol.
Bailey Lynn Gordon from Moncton.
I'm Krista Seringo from Bristol.
Rob Backlund, Lincoln. Steve Ernie, a graduate of Virgins.
Brad Johnson, Starksville, 2 kids at Mount Abe, and I'm also on study.
Yes, well, welcome, everybody. We're happy to have everyone together tonight. We do have some communications from the state that we have to share, as this is really a meeting, and before we go into a video that we want everyone to see.
And if I could just remind everyone to speak up as much as possible so that we have 2 mics in the room and thanks.
Great. So at the last merger study committee meeting, the committee directed me to reach out to the State Board of Education to request tentatively that the study committee be on the agenda for July, ideally to present their report and recommendation should the decision ultimately be to recommend going forward with the next steps to a vote on a proposed merger. And I did get some additional follow-up communication from Chair Olson. And the goal for this evening is just briefly to tell you what he said. And this will likely be of interest to all boards and the study committee, tell you what we've done in response so far, and generally just to share information. We do expect that there'll be additional discussion at future meetings of each body. There's a lot of important work and discussion to be had, and there are relevant timelines to be mindful of. But in consultation with the chairs, co-chairs, and superintendents, ask that folks try and reserve discussion for those future meetings so that there's adequate time for feedback on the articles and the committee work after this update. So again, per the committee's action on May 17th, I reached out to the chair of the State Board of Education, Oliver Olson, the next day on May 18th to make that request that your report and recommendation be on the agenda for their July meeting. I explained where you were in the process and that your recommendation is not final, but that you wanted to be proactive in scheduling given the anticipated timeline for a November vote and with respect for the State Board of Education's many priorities. The response from Chair Olson was yes, he will hold space for us, for you and your report in July. And he made an additional request, and his request was that the committee and boards provide the state board with input in detail regarding governance, specifically as it relates to supervisory union services in the region. With respect for the importance of Chair Olson's request and time, I consulted with the chairs of both boards, the co-chairs of the committee and superintendents last week, and replied that all three are grateful for the invitation and will be prepared to provide information and input at the July meeting. I haven't heard back from the chair yet, but do want to take a moment and highlight some of the key points from his communication to me for you. The key things to be aware of are at their meeting on May 18th, the State Board of Ed adopted an order forming Lincoln as a school district. It's not a provisional approval as Ripton is. Lincoln has been formed. The communication is clear that the state board intends to review supervisory union boundaries at their September meeting. Chair Olson communicated that representatives from Save Our Schools are advocating that supervisory union services and assignment be addressed and are objecting to making them their own supervisory district, and specifically asking that MAUSD be deconstructed to reform a supervisory union so that they can get their services there. Chair Olson expressed great concern, and I think perhaps there's great concern by many that including the withdrawing districts regarding the viability of withdrawal as pertains to securing supervisory union services. There's concern, especially for Lincoln, which may be alone if Ripton abandons withdrawal based on the difficulties that they might encounter with supervisory union services. And there's concern around strategies for obtaining supervisory union services in ways that may harm other districts. And of course, there also is the possibility of Starksboro progressing through a process and encountering similar challenges if they continue to pursue withdrawal. This reality in terms of finding supervisory union services in part might be what Chair Olson means when he in his message describes kids being stranded at sea in a sea of dysfunction and chaos, and that he sees that as a real potential as we look forward for governance. He also mentioned the importance of the greater electorate of the whole district, voting members off the island, that's the phrase he used, without being fully informed of the impacts, not just on the withdrawing district, but on the remaining districts and its students. He describes this again as actively participating in the deconstruction of districts. His communication essentially acknowledges the importance of the supervisory district structure for cost savings, which will be highlighted in tonight's memo, and for not only losing the access to those cost savings, but for cost increases from deconstructing a supervisory district model, for collaboration for cost-effective mindsets and restructuring of middle level and high schools that is essential for both ANWSD and MAUSD if a merger is recommended in order to leverage those savings and enhance opportunities for students. A key message is that decisions about one town don't just affect that town. They affect everyone, the taxpayers and students and employees throughout ANWSD and MAUSD. So that's basically the informational update. What I'd add is because there are so many groups that are being coordinated at this point, I accepted the privilege of sharing that information, but again, expect that this will likely be an agenda on all bodies meeting agendas, an agenda item on all bodies meeting agendas at the coming meeting, and you will have the opportunity to discuss further roles and responsibilities and how you follow up with that. And I will also be sure to update the co-chairs and board chairs if and when I hear anything more from Chair Olson about the June meeting. And for the committee, I stand ready to support you the way you decide you would like me to help. So that is the update.
Next, the committee has created a short video to give some basic information about the merger study, the articles of agreement, and the next steps in the process. We felt it was important to explain the articles in plain language so everyone has a chance to understand what they intend and offer feedback. The draft articles are posted on the Merger Study Committee websites. They're also linked on our meeting agendas. And everyone should have received a hard copy of them tonight. Did everybody receive? Okay, yes, good. And we have more if anyone needs some. So, all right, we're gonna show the video and then we're gonna break out into groups and I'll explain that later. Let's watch.
Hi, friends. I don't get any.
The committee plans to gather community input.
Good with that.
Of 773 students. Currently, the regional population is stable and elementary school populations are predicted to remain stable for a decade. The committee considered community member feedback and was intent on keeping elementary schools open. Additionally, tax rates are predicted to increase 13.5% to 15% through 2027. This includes impacts of the excess spending penalty and is based on fall 2021 projections. Furthermore, the state's anticipated changes in the pupil weighting formula is not expected to help either ANWSD or MAUSD. A merger, when fully implemented, offers several significant opportunities for savings and efficiencies. Merging central offices has an estimated savings of $1.3 million. Combining middle and high schools is estimated to save $2.5 million. And cost efficiency actions, such as combining VUHS and Mount Abe AP and other lower enrollment elective classes, and combining summer school programs, and buying materials in greater bulk, are estimated to save $1.2 million. Here is some other pertinent information. School buildings in both districts are well maintained. MAUSD maintains buildings through annual budget allocation. ANWSD funded updates through a bond. Most outcomes projected for the Act 46 mergers of 2017-18 were fully or partially realized. MAUSD fully or partially realized 29 out of 30 outcomes from the Act 46 study, and ANWSD realized 19 out of 23 outcomes. Transportation does not need to be a significant barrier. A shuttle option would support reasonable commute times for students. The transportation study done in the fall of 2021 indicated that on average, current routes and ride times can be maintained for restructured middle and high schools if we make slight adjustments to the school start times and run shuttles between the MAUHS and VUHS campuses. This merger may be the best option to continue strong programming for students and to maximize cost efficiency as compared to all other options studied by the committee and school boards.
Upon gathering feedback from our community members, we have learned that our citizens value our community schools. Our community has shared the following. We want our schools to be innovative and use best practice, have positive cultures where all community members are valued and have positive relationships. We want to promote strong school-community partnerships and enable responsible management of costs and tax rates. We want transparency and a well-governed system that is informed by local community voices. We want what's best for our kids. We want to sustain and expand academic and extracurricular opportunities for our middle and high school students. We want to increase equity and ensure that all of our students have access to engaging, relevant, and high-quality learning opportunities. We want to increase cost efficiency and slow tax rate growth to benefit all. To do this, we can combine our middle schools and expand middle school grades 6 through 8. We can combine our high schools and evaluate our systems for thoughtful use of resources and opportunities for expanded collaboration at the K through 5 level. Potential efficiencies would be balanced with local school-based decision-making and community needs.
The Merger Study Committee has been tasked with exploring the various options and possibilities for a merged district. As part of this work, the committee was asked to draft articles of agreement for a potential merging of districts. These articles are a written agreement and a framework, like a contract, for the new unified district and the transition work that would happen in the future. These articles are not set in stone, however. They can be changed with voter approval, by petition, or by the newly elected Unified School Board. They are guided by law and written in formal legal language. Some articles are required, while others are options.
You can find a complete copy of the draft Articles of Agreement on the Merger Study Committee website. In this video, we are providing a brief overview of what the articles include. Articles 1 through 13 are required by state statute. Article 14 includes items that are optional but important. Articles 1 through 4 outline grades to be operated and cost and location of proposed new schools. These articles merge ANWSD and MAUSD and indicate that Lincoln is in the withdrawal process. Please know that if Lincoln, Starksboro, or any other town becomes its own district by the date of a vote on these articles, it would be an advisory district and could vote to join the new district or not. If Lincoln or another town is not yet established by the date of a vote, they will be included as part of MAUSD, and related articles would be removed. Recently passed legislation clarifies the process for withdrawal from union school districts and states that all towns have the opportunity to withdraw in the future if they feel it is in the best interest of students. These articles also indicate that all schools would remain open upon a merger and that no new buildings or major renovations are proposed with a merger. In addition, the new unified district would be responsible for ongoing maintenance, repair, and renovations.
Article 5 outlines the plan for the first year of operation. In the first year of unification, transportation would remain the same as it is currently. Future transportation must consider ride time. The shuttle option plan supports reasonable ride times. In the first year of unification, staffing will remain the same unless individuals agree to a change in location. Collective bargaining agreements and individual contracts will remain the same pending new agreements. All other contracts will be honored until their termination. In the first year of unification, curriculum and graduation requirements will remain the same. Future evolution of curriculum and graduation requirements will be driven by district leadership and overseen by the new unified school board. A multi-year curriculum development process will be planned, and a plan for graduation requirement alignment will be made. The goal of these articles is to provide stability and continuity. Article 14D is an optional article and outlines school of attendance. In the first year of unification, students would continue to attend the school in the town of their residence. If a student wanted to attend another school within the district, this would be permitted if capacity allowed. Any high school students would need to meet the graduation requirements of the school they are attending.
Articles 6A through C outline surpluses, debts, special funds, and property. Upon unification, all surplus, debts, special funds, and property would be transferred to the new district. Funds would need to be used for their original purposes. For example, the school improvement fund could not be used to pay salaries or for improvements on a different school building. Article 7B outlines disposal of real estate. First, this committee's goal is to keep all buildings open and operational. If the unified district needed to dispose of buildings or property in the future, Addison, Ferrisburg, Bristol, Lincoln, Moncton, New Haven, and Starksboro buildings would be returned to the town for $1. The Virgins Union Elementary School would be handled per the covenant agreed to in 1988 when it was formed. And in the very unlikely event that either middle high school campus was not needed, the property would be sold per the process outlined in the law. Any disposal of real estate would require voter approval.
Article 14B outlines sustaining and protecting community schools. This article communicates that for the first 4 years, elementary schools would not be closed without a yes vote by the electorate of the towns the school serves today. After 4 years, elementary schools would not be closed without a 2/3 majority vote of the new unified school board and a 2/3 majority vote of the electorate of the new district. Additionally, please know that work done by local school boards and this committee over the past 2 years indicates that closure of a school building is extremely unlikely if we can work together with a cost-effective mindset and have a strong commitment to equity and opportunity for all. The articles ensure time to create efficiency, strengthen programming, and implement best instructional practice in every elementary school in the district. In fact, this work must happen to get the support of a town in the first 4 years or the district and board after the first 4 years. This plan ensures that all towns would have the time and opportunity to withdraw in the future if they felt it was needed. Given the enrollment and tax rate trends, it is really important that we open the door to restructuring the middle and high schools and expand the grades to serve 6th, 7th, and 8th grades at the middle school. This action will preserve and enhance opportunities for middle and high school students and those students moving up to middle and high school. The committee feels strongly that a merged district can strengthen and enhance community elementary schools, and it is the best path to keep community schools vibrant. The committee worked hard to craft articles that allow this important work to happen and recognize that we don't know exactly what will happen in the future, ever, and want to position the board and community to work together for both anticipated and unanticipated circumstances.
Articles 9 and 10 set the structure for a new school board. A school board has to have between 3 and 18 members serving 3-year terms and has to ensure proportionate representation. To accomplish this, the committee recommends a 15-member board, with every town having 1 board member. The additional 5 seats would be assigned to towns based on population. To ensure proportionality, representation based on population, board members' votes will be weighted. To ensure 1/3 of the seats turn over in any given year, the initial terms of board members will be 1, 2, and 3 years respectively. This structure allows for board evolution and new participation. It also ensures some stability with incumbent members.
There are several other articles that cover required items. Article 8 says that the forming entities, that is the ANWSD and MAUSD, continue to operate until the new union begins operations. Then they cease to exist. Article 11 sets the date of a vote for November 8th, 2022. Article 12 sets the date for the new district to begin operations for July 1st, 2023. And Article 13 says that the board for the new union can begin work to prepare for operations immediately after a vote in November. But ANWSD and MAUSD will continue to oversee school operations until July 1st, 2023. Basically, there is a period of overlap where the current boards continue to run day-to-day tasks while the new board prepares to take over. Article 14 includes optional items that the committee thinks is important. Article 14A says that the votes on the budget and other public questions are by Australian ballot and commingled for counting. This means that ballots would not be counted by town. Article 14B tells the Vermont State Board that we want the efficiencies and benefits of a unified union, though ultimately the State Board has the final decision on whether or not a merged district will be a unified union and include supervisory union services as a single entity. Article 14E requires the new board to consider strategies for community involvement at the school level and to seek local input on matters such as budget and policy. This was an important value expressed by many people. This article ensures that the new board must engage the community, and the community can hold the board accountable if it doesn't.
Before finalizing the Articles of Agreement and making a recommendation, the committee wants to hear from you. Some of the articles are pretty cut and dry, but there are some where we have the opportunity to make decisions that really reflect who we are as a community and how we want to work together. Stay tuned for information about how you can give feedback on all of the articles, and especially articles related to board representation, supporting and protecting community schools, first year of operation, community involvement, and the vision and goals for forming a union. We also need to have a name for the new district and want community help with that.
After we receive feedback through June 5th, the committee will use the feedback to revise and refine articles. The committee will also have a legal review of articles. Then, the committee will discuss the pros and cons of forming a union and make a recommendation to bring the question to voters or not. If a vote is recommended, the report will be sent to the State Board of Education and ANWSD and MAUSD boards. There will be a vote on November 8th, 2022. And if approved by voters, the new district will begin operation on July 1, 2023. The committee recognizes that the vote is only the first step in this process. It will take time for full implementation of efficiencies and enhanced opportunities. In year 1, 2023-24, the work focus will be on merging business operations, governance, and planning for student learning opportunities. Year 2, 2024-25, will likely focus on educational opportunities. Of course, a new board may capitalize on any easy opportunities to improve options for students and capitalize on efficiencies. but everyone should expect a thoughtful, multi-year process of working together. We thank you for your interest in this important work and look forward to your feedback and continued involvement in ensuring a strong future for all of our schools, students, and communities.
All right. Special thanks needs to go to some people here. Stephanie, who is, yeah,
She will be joining
she
in a
will be
bit.
joining us. Keith, thank do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Troy Parody, resident of Bristol.
And Sarah, they put a lot of work in to create the video. And I think they did a fantastic job. As part of our work as a committee, we have practiced using restorative circles, and we found that it was a really good way to use to listen, because listening is so important. So tonight, we're gonna follow what we've sort of been doing with this process, and we're going to break into groups and use a circle protocol for feedback on the articles. In a moment, I'm going to break you into groups, but I want to give you a little bit of an explanation on the norms and the process of how this works. We're going to break off into groups and sit in circles so that everyone can be face to face instead of our backs to you. And it'll allow us to focus on a common center, like literally and figuratively, without creating a sense of sides. One group will stay at the board table to include board members who are attending virtually. In person, each group will use a talking piece. You have them here. And pass it from person to person around the circle. Only the person that's holding the talking piece may speak, allowing the speaker to speak without interruption and listeners to focus on listening without being distracted by thinking about a response to the speaker. Everyone has an opportunity to speak or may simply pause for a moment of silence and pass. This shows that we believe that we all have something important to contribute to the group. If you're virtual, we'll use the talking piece here, and your facilitator will add the virtual participants in a specific order. Remember who you speak after. And when you're finished, or if you don't have something to say, you can just say pass, and to signal the pass, to pass the talking piece to the next person. Share your answer to the question, speak from your heart. It's okay to be the same, and it's okay to be different. We are not looking for a response to something someone else may have said. We really want to hear your feedback on the articles in relation to some questions your facilitator will ask. Circles work best on the guidelines, and we'd like to propose some and ask for everyone's agreement to follow them. The first one is to respect the talking piece. The person with the talking piece or that's speaking virtually has the opportunity to talk without interruption, and all others have the opportunity to listen without the need to respond. We will pass the talking piece around the circle from person to person. It's always okay to say pass without speaking. Your facilitator will only talk to pose prompts and if needed, to facilitate the process. Speak from the heart and speak with respect. This means speaking for yourself, talking about what is true for you based on your own experience and perspectives. No need to rehearse or practice. In circles, we discover we can trust that we will know what to say when it is our turn to speak. We don't have to mentally rehearse while we are waiting for our turn. When we find we are rehearsing, and everyone does, we remind ourselves there's no need to rehearse and gently bring our attention back to the person who is speaking. Without feeling rushed, just say enough, keeping in mind the limits of time and making room for everyone to speak. Listen from the heart and listen with respect. We are used we are used to judging other people, sometimes without even knowing anything about another person. We will make assumptions about them. These assumptions can keep us from really hearing what others have to say and what they have to say. And it may be something important and helpful. Therefore, when we listen from the heart, we are trying to set aside any assumptions and judgments we may hold about the person. Be mindful of body language and facial expressions. Most often, we do not take notes when we are in a circle to ensure all feel safe sharing. In these circles, committee members will be taking notes to be sure we capture this share. They'll be capturing the gist of what people share, not word for word, and no notes will be attributed to specific individuals. Is this something that sounds okay to everyone that maybe hasn't done this with us before? Yes. Excellent. All right, we're going to count off into groups of 4. And we know, all of us know who's facilitating and yeah, so I think we'll do, I'm trying to think how we should do.
So there's a group here.
Yep.
One circle can be over there, one circle can be, we can circle up right here, and one can be in this classroom here. Is Mary?
She isn't, but I think Kevin and I can handle it.
Okay.
We got it.
So,
Right, Kevin? We got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
so is this group 1? You want to call this 1?
This can be group 1.
2 over here, 3 and 4 in the other room?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Okay, we can start with MAUSD and we'll count off by 4s and 1 will go there. Here, 2 will go.
1.
2, 3.
You are.
Yes, you are.
So we're at 3, Mark.
4.
1, 2, 3.
4.
I'm gonna go grab a book back here.
4. 1.
I forgot to grab my talking piece. Upstairs.
And working with Carolyn Dustin here, group 2, Sarah Keith and Ed over here. Group 3, Sarah, Erica and Brad, and then group 4, Rebecca, Kevin and Liz. Go ahead and go to your groups. Trying to give you guys all more.
Okay.
Let me move
Let's
on.
get started. Let's do it. So welcome. So we have Sandra Lee and Liz. Virtual?
Yep.
That's correct. Okay. So why don't we reintroduce ourselves? I have the talking piece.
Nice.
And we'll move it around the circle and say our name again and who we're representing. My name is Troy Parody. I live in Bristol and I'm representing the greater community. I have 3 sons recently graduated from the MAUSD district.
And I'm Krista representing MAUSD. I'm on the board. I have 2 kids at Mount Abe right now and a son at the elementary school in Bristol.
Hello, John Strout, and I am the board chair of the ANWSD. I live here in Virgins, and I have 2 children. One is in middle school, and one is in elementary school.
I'm Dawn Griswold from Moncton on the MAUSD board. I have 2 children who are graduates of Mount Abraham. One is in the year countdown for his PhD.
Yay. Should I go or do I? Sure. I'm Dustin Corrigan. I'm on the merger study committee from Bristol. I'm also a teacher at Mount Abraham, and I have 3 kids in the MAUSD district, 1 at Mount Abe and 2 at elementary.
Go to the Sandra Lee.
Hey guys, so I'm Sandra Lee. I am a board member with MAUSD. My daughter Sophie is a senior graduating this year, and my son graduated in 2019. He's at UVM. And I apologize, you guys. I had, ironically, my junior college student required me to stay in Burlington to grab him. So I'm participating on the move. So I apologize if there's a lot of movement back here. Are you able to hear me?
Thank you
Yes.
so much for being here, Sandra, and I'm Liz there from Bristol.
We also have one other board member of ours. Her name is Lori Childers, and she's up there.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Lori.
Hi, I'm Lori Childers. I'm a representative from Addison.
Thank you. My name is Nikki Bear. I am the representative from Ferrisburg on the ANWSD board. And I have two nieces that attend Ferrisburg Central School.
Okay, well, welcome and thank you all for attending. And we'll get things rolling. So probably most of you have done a circle exercise before. If you're on a board or in education, this is not new to you. So this is not a back and forth. It's a speak and pass. So we're trying to gather important perspectives to consider as we continue to move forward with the question of whether or not to have this merger vote and continue forward and what to present to the greater community. So we've been working on these articles of agreement and we have worked on them and edited and thought. And already have received a lot of feedback from various sources, but now we're here at the board level to get some thoughtful input. And everyone has had a chance to take a look at the articles and has gone through them. Great. So we're just going to sort of go through. I have 7 questions and we'll go through as much as we can in the time we have. I think we're going to take as much time as we need within reason. So here's the first question. What are your first thoughts after reading and learning more about the proposed articles? So when you read the articles and had some time to digest them, what are some of your first thoughts? So I'll give you a minute before I quickly hand off in one direction or another.
Which way?
Think about that. So.
Okay. I have a hard copy here as well, if anybody wants to.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Sorry, just looking for it. Okay. It's okay. I am ready.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're going to move in counterclockwise this time.
Okay. So I'm going to be really honest. My first question, the first sort of thoughts that came to my head as I'm new to the ANWSD board is, how did this all sort of come about? Like, this is a lot of information to pull together and sort of what were I started thinking and wondering what the motivators were that sort of brought both boards and all of these communities into this discussion.
Okay, great. So Liz is with us already. Sandra Lee, can you hear? Do you have some first thoughts?
I actually can hear. You guys are so great. Thank you. My initial thoughts were actually, I think the merger study draft was really trying to balance very many competing and similar interests and trying to cover a lot of ground. I think for those who aren't following everything as closely as maybe a school board member might be, for example, it could be hard to decipher. So those were my first impressions.
My initial thoughts were a little more superficial.
Okay, Lori?
So my first impression was, oh my gosh, you guys have worked so hard and listened really well.
So my initial thoughts were.
This is huge. It's really, really, really big, and it's a little scary.
Especially our littlest kid. What does it say about opportunities?
I would agree with the last statement, that the amount of work. I remember being on the Act 46 committee and how much work it was. And you could really see that this required a lot of work as well to get all this spelled out in a way that's understandable. I found it very understandable, so.
So my initial impression is actually a lot of excitement. I have often been talking about, I believe that our futures are shared in some way. And it's hard to understand a real tangible way that we can connect. And this is like a real thing. I mean, like it's not just some ideas, not just some people talking. Like you all have done something to give us something that's in words and has real possibilities. And I'm grateful, really, really grateful.
I am reacting both to the reading of the articles and the video, because I think the video was so well done and really helped to bring these articles to life and to really spotlight the thought that went into the different components and the deliberation and the discussion and the compromise. And I really appreciate that, because as I was reading them, I was thinking that those are things we're going to really need to be able to articulate to our communities if we think this is something we should do. And so I appreciated both the written articles and then the presentation together in the way that they really hit on the highlights and helped to make them more clear.
So awesome. So the next point is this. The committee is put together all of this information based on all of the information that we have received so far from the community, from the study that was the Levinson report, from the board, the boards that had this committee put together. And we have come to the belief that the following things can happen if indeed we come to some sort of a place. And I'm trying to really balance the fact that we're not yet proposing a merger or not. We have designed articles that if there were a merger, this could facilitate that. But the committee has come to the belief through all of our work that the following things could happen. And I can repeat any of these that you want, because I'm then going to ask you, what are your thoughts about this proposed vision? So we believe that if the two
There's somebody's got a mic open, and so it's competing with what you're saying, right?
If you're online, would you mind muting yourselves?
Maybe we can
Thank you.
mute Nancy and
I don't know, there's a mic that keeps, when you talk, it.
I think this person.
Can you mute everyone?
Aha, perfect.
Great. So here are our beliefs at this point in time, that we could sustain and expand opportunities for our students by coming together in some way, shape, or form. That we could increase our cost effectiveness and slow the tax rate growth. We could increase equity. We could ensure that all students have access to engaging, relevant, and high-quality learning opportunities that they already have, but we can increase the equity and continue to ensure that happens. In order to accomplish these goals, there are some structures and things that a merger could do that would allow this to happen. There could be some sort of combination of schools at the middle and high school level. It would allow us to do what that would look like yet to be determined, but it would allow some of that to happen. We could expand or change the number of grades that are served at a middle level, which could then allow for cost effectiveness at various levels. We could, and this phrase is not always one we want to use, but we can really be cost effective with our planning. That we use the word cost effective mindset, but I think it's really cost effective planning and policies for all of our schools that promote collaboration, thoughtful use of resources, opportunities for all students, and continues to keep a local school-based decision-making model. So those are the things that the committee believes can happen through the work that we've done so far. My question is, what are your thoughts? So when you hear those things, what do you think? And I can repeat, or I can just, if you want to glance at this.
Do you mind?
Yeah,
Sometimes
you
I
can
need to
glance.
read something too.
Thank you. Okay, you know we're going the other way.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready. I have my
Okay.
pen. Yeah, I mean, I think all of that is possible. I think that it will be important for people to hear all of that and hear it fleshed out as much as is reasonable, knowing that a lot of decisions would be made by the newly formed board. But I think it helps to illustrate that there isn't a binary of bigger system, no community involvement, for example, that you can sustain community voice and local involvement, even in a system that's bigger and that can provide opportunities with more access and efficiency and consistency than you can in a smaller system. And so, again, I keep thinking about how to address some of the concerns we've heard in our community. So I agree that they're all possible, and I would like to see how your committee can really help folks get their head around what that could look like. Yeah. Those are my initial thoughts.
Okay. I am especially concerned about high school and middle level programming. And I see this as a real possibility to preserve and to add access and programs and really give students more choices as they navigate through. And that's at the level of like social studies classes that they can possibly take to, being able to put together more sports teams that neither one of our schools are able to have. So I'm really interested in that. In terms of the cost effectiveness part, I mean, it's expensive. We're $21,000 per kid here. You all are right there with us. And I really have a hard time seeing a future that's not at 25 and 26. And it will happen. It'll happen really quickly as we move out of this kind of flush time. So I'm particularly interested in that as well. And then really quickly, the last part is, I think it goes a little bit beyond this. And I really am excited about broadening our conversation to more people that we have a sustain, we all are just over there. Like you have ideas and we'd have ideas, and these are good ways for us to be in communication with each other about ideas that we don't even know about right now. So that is another part that is something I think emerges from this.
I feel like I need to pass because there are just too many ideas. But the part I do see the value is in the continued conversation to work through it together. I think that's the strongest part of the whole thing, is the conversation and working through it together. And I'm sorry, I can't be more specific, but my head is like zing, zing, zinging around. Is it
Lori?
So
You have the
my,
spoon, Lori.
hi, guys. Thanks. I'm really appreciative of you including me. Thank you. I'm stuck on the sixth graders coming up into the 7th and 8th grade. I know it's a narrow focus, but it's something that's stuck in me. We have been talking about changing the structure of the middle school, and we've run into a lot of what I perceive as pushback from the community, but also from the teachers. And it's been through this process, I feel like what I came away with was as a board, we could just say, hey, you're going to do 6, 7, and 8. But I'm not sure that's the best way of getting student outcomes that we want, since it's the teachers that are in the classrooms making all the difference, and we have to have buy-in from them. So that would be a concern of mine. We're going out to our communities and saying, hey, we can do 6, 7, 8. But I'm not positive we've gotten buy-in from our teachers. I also want to say, I'm sorry, Dawn, I'm having the same experience. That really stuck in me. And so I'm really stuck, but there's a lot going on in my head. And this stuff, we've been talking about this stuff for years. And I can just imagine what it must be like for a community member that knows nothing about what we've been doing.
Merger versus no merger.
Thank you. Sandra Lee, you have the spoon.
Thank you. It is a lot. Earlier comments about concern about middle school and high school, I think is real. I think there is a tremendous amount of potential for the 2 districts in optimizing in those opportunities. So, and I'd mentioned this before in other meetings, but I do believe that has to be the focus. And I did really felt that you communicated that well in the video that you put together. I thought that was excellent. And so, so with that in mind, my other, thoughts are how obviously we don't know the answer to this yet, but how to address the smaller schools, to address everyone's concerns, but not letting it detract us from, I think, the heavy part of the work. I mean, I really envision these 2 districts and possibly more districts really coming together to provide fantastic opportunities for our kids. So it's something I'm hopeful for our community.
Great, thank you. You have the spoon.
Yeah, so sorry, I'm still trying to gather my thoughts a little bit here, I think. I feel like the goals that you guys, sort of these pieces that you guys have set here, I think they're good, and I think they would provide positive experiences for the students within both districts. I guess my concern is that with them being so broad, getting that voter buy-in, I think. But on the other hand, I wonder if getting too specific is going to lead, it's going to be like a shot in the foot on the other hand. And so I guess that's sort of where I am at this point in time, how specific to get within these meetings and with what you're presenting to the community, because they're going to want some of these details ironed out in terms of what the plan is for, which buildings are going to house which grades and who's going to be where and all of that sort of stuff. So I think that's sort of where my brain is at with that at this time.
Okay. Great. So on to number 4. Number 4 is what aspects of the draft articles or a proposed merger could most powerfully support students, and what do you think might be missing? So we're thinking about what have you seen in these articles and what do you think about a proposed merger that could most powerfully support students? And what do you think might be missing?
At a minimum, we're contemplating staying.
Okay, it's your turn.
Sweet. I like to go first, then you people can all sound smart after me. My brain's kind of a jumble sometimes. Tonight is one of those nights. So I think one of the pieces that I'm most excited about in the articles is the piece on curriculum. We had students at our board meeting last week who were advocating for some new social studies classes regarding equity and regarding teaching of current events and things of that nature. And I think that article sort of leaves that opportunity wide open to create meaningful curriculum that's up to date, that really meets the needs and focuses on the many cultures and ethnicities that we have in our schools. And so I think that could be a really positive piece of this when we get to that point. I know it'll, the plan is to stay the same, to sort of, for things to remain the same first year as we sort of get this up and running, but the opportunities that could arise, there's room for lots of different things. So that's exciting.
Sandra Lee, you have the spoon.
Okay. So what's most powerful about the draft and what do I think is missing? Is that the question?
Yes.
Oh gosh, I might have to pass on the details because I usually would be poring over it right now if I could to give details. But I think it's pretty comprehensive, I'm gonna say, and it covers a lot of subject. It kind of goes back to I don't think it's the fault of the drafting. I just think what's missing is sort of a full understanding of what it means in actual, like in real time, for people to understand. I think the video, I agree with Krista, went a long way to explaining it in a way that is much more, I think, digestible. And so more of that, I think would be great.
Okay. Lori, you have the spoon.
Thank you. So buildings, particularly the high school in our district, is something really prideful and important. And it seemed to be addressed in the articles, but maybe I just, it wasn't as glaring as I was expecting, but I think our community will really want to know that the buildings that we've put so much time and effort into are not going to go away. That's one thing. And the other thing, for a while now, well, pretty much ever since I've been on the board, we've been struggling every year to cut in order to get to a tax rate that we think our people will vote for. And every year we cut a little bit more and
I share
only delaying it. It's not
making a big change, and I don't see a future in constantly or continually cutting. And I really would like to see us talking more about what
Marginal success.
super positive things of this merger could be. Like, I don't know, could we teach Chinese? I'm not suggesting that be in the merger. I mean, in the articles. What I'm saying is, what are the possibilities? What could we do if we merged with, and we're, like, I'm thinking, we're only talking about what, $6,000 or $6 million in savings? Was that how much? It wasn't even that much it wasn't even 6 million. So additionally, our communities they just went through a merger. You guys just finished a merger. We just finished a merger, and our tax rates still went up. Although this year they're going to go down. So maybe that won't be such a thing for our voters. But I would like to have some more ideas of what could really be possible with this merger that without the merger, it's just not going to happen. Related to programming, related to student curriculum and program. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would agree that the curriculum piece seems the most promising to me. It seems like a place that would provide more opportunities and sort of take the pressure off the systems as they exist now. So I think that's the most promising thing, that there might be more opportunities that we can provide for students in our buildings or in, across buildings. I think that's the big plus for me.
Yes, okay. So I think that one of the benefits of this, one of the things that's really good, is the opportunity to collectively bargain with a larger group. And I say that because not as a slight to anybody in the bargaining, but the bargain and the union and the agreements make it really hard for us to share curriculum and teachers right now, and do that kind of work. That's just really hard to do. I don't blame anybody for that, but this would allow us to be able to make those kinds of choices as a community. So that's something I think can be really powerful to lead to curriculum. Something I think that should be added here. I do think that it would be wise to give a timeline for middle and high schools to stay open for some period of time. Because when we merge and we go in and like immediately everybody's like, was it going to happen now? Is it going to happen, next year? Is it going to happen? When, you know what I mean? Like, and at least give ourselves just a little bit of breathing room to come together and stay or not stay, or know it, that we're going to merge and then we're immediately going to work this out. I don't think you have to build in the 2/3. I hope you do not put in the 2/3, the majorities. But I think you should think of and talk about time frame for middle and high school. Krista?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think that there are, for me, and I feel like I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I think for me, the articles are the framework for what can happen that will be of benefit, but it's hard to see in the articles as you read them if you're not familiar with how that plays out to understand what benefit they afford. And so I don't have a lot of feedback on what's missing in the articles per se from the legal perspective, but more from the kind of helping people to understand. And what you were saying, John, just now about, we do collaboration already I think about our sports teams, there are things in our current configuration that work well, but to be able to understand how they could work better in a more formal arrangement, I think is something folks might appreciate understanding. So what are and I don't know if that gets written into the articles, I guess, is what I'm struggling with, but similarly thinking, so that goes with curriculum and collective bargaining. I had the same thoughts around, there was an article about advising a preference to operate as the supervisory district. And so I think I understand why that is a preference, but I think it's important for us to be able to articulate to folks what the preference is over a supervisory district structure, rather than a supervisory union structure. And then something else related to the articles that I guess I had a little more specific feedback around is the School of Attendance, Article 14. I wonder if it could be considered to keep it as it is for each district in the first year, but I couldn't tell in my quick reading if then after that first year, it would be open up to a whole new look at that policy. And I say that only because we're chewing on what school choice and moving from school to school to what that means. And so I don't know if that is something that the merger study committee would consider tweaking so that can be I don't know what the word is for that policy around how you decide where kids go to school based on the town they live. But if that's something that could be revisited after the first year of operation, that is something I would be interested in seeing. And then I agree with what has been said already about the opportunity to expand curriculum, to expand programming. I also appreciated what was said about the pride in the current buildings. And so those are just things that, again, I don't know how they weave into articles, but it's just some general feedback.
Okay. Number 5, supporting and protecting community schools is an important issue in our region and for a possible merger. What should the committee consider regarding the draft articles to address this important matter?
I don't know if you can spell that out. That process where we we can see some scenarios.
All right, back to you.
Me, okay. I liked what I heard earlier, I think from John, about adding more detail around the middle and high school provisions that were there for elementary schools. I don't know if those are the exact same ones that the committee would decide to put in, but I do think that is helpful for people to, for us to see in these articles. Other than that, I think that they reflect a really thoughtful discussion and dialogue. And I think the way that it was articulated in the video just, reinforce that I think the way they're written makes good sense and is really respectful of what folks are most anxious about while allowing this work to still continue.
Okay. I would say that, I think a lot of you all did really well with the elementary schools. I mean, I would, my preference is not to have 2/3 majority of the entire electorate. You know, I'll say that. I'm not, you know, I think 2/3 of majority of quorum of a board is pretty high bar. So, but I see what you're doing, and if that's what it takes, okay, I get it. There's a lot of deep connection to those, to the elementary schools that exist in these towns. So I see what you're doing. I'm really appreciative of it. I guess that's what I'm most likely to say.
Because based on.
I'm struggling with an answer to that question, but mostly I'm thinking about, what do you know about the voices that are missing? What do you know about those voices that you're not hearing? Because in my experience on a board, there are voices in front of you and there are voices that never come in front of you. So I'm kind of wondering, what have you connected? Do you have any insight into those voices you're not hearing from? So I guess
It's to Sandra Lee. If you're available.
I am. Sorry, it takes me a while to unmute.
Hope somebody's recording this.
I know, this is, boy, these are hard. I guess I'm thinking about the announcement that happened at the beginning of the meeting. And just what that means in terms of the articles, and the concept of supervisory unions and how they're created and what it means for all these separate community schools and what's coming down the road. So I'm wondering how all that discussion is going to affect sort of this issue in particular. And I think it remains to be seen. But I do want to say that I very much appreciated the merger study committee's efforts to really show sincerity in the efforts to keep community schools open. It's just interesting that I don't know quite how to think about everything in terms of Starksborough's vote recently and everything else that's happening. So I'd have to think more about how all that comes together with how the articles are currently written. But I can say that I definitely got the sentiment from the merger study committee of the sincerity. The question is what's in the detail and what will ultimately, how will these articles be read or interpreted, even 4 years, 2 years, 6 years from now, kind of like what we're doing right now with the Act 46 articles in MAUSD.
Lori.
Could I get some clarification? Do the articles say 2/3 of the electorate? Or do they say 2/3 of the vote? Because that's a significantly different. Can somebody clarify that?
2/3, it's 2/3 of the voters who vote.
Okay. It's 2/3 of the voters.
Yes.
In order to close. You know, I know this.
And the board, yeah.
This seems, this is not like education. I'm an accountant. So numbers are super important. And I almost wish we could put something in, something like, when equity suffers, we have to be able to consider moving those children so they get an equitable education. When financial requirements, when it costs so much to keep a school open for only 65 kids, I live in Addison. We survived closing a school. It stinks. I didn't like it. My kids went to school here. I wish we hadn't have done it. But the numbers, they didn't work for 65 kids. I wish we had economic development money that we could merge with our school board money, with our education dollars, so that we could have kept Addison open. But we can't. I just think it would be, you know, once a school reaches $25,000 of cost per student, doesn't that seem extraordinary for the rest of the electorate or the rest of the taxpayers to pay for without economic development money? Anyway, that's my.
You have the spoon.
Thank you. My thoughts don't feel really cohesive about this yet, so I'm kind of just gonna blurt a little bit. I'm a student that came from a small elementary school. We had 35 kids in our entire school. And I will say that was a bit of a struggle to transition from such a small community school to a middle high school that had 600 or 700 kids in it. That was rough. I also think you've got to look at the needs of your students and you've got to look at the needs of your budget. Kind of what Lori was saying, it's nice to just want to focus on keeping that school open. But if it doesn't make sense for the needs of the students and for the budget that you're trying to balance and to meet, and I think there needs to be the opportunity to make the decision to not maintain all of those buildings. And so, I don't know, that's sort of where I'm at.
Thank you. So we were just asked to try and wrap up in 5. I pushed for 7.
How many questions do we have left?
Put that in the articles.
We have 2 questions left, but one of them is about a name, so we can skip that. So the last question is, what factors need to be considered as the merger committee moves forward from tonight to ensure that we have adequate public education? So getting everybody, that's been mentioned a few times. How do we make sure we get everybody to understand, and input, which I've also heard that said already a couple of times. So what sort of factors do you think we need to consider about that, assuming, which is not a great word to use, that we might end up recommending a merger. So if the decision is to recommend a merger, what do you think we need to do moving forward in terms of educating about some of the things we've talked about and getting input? So chew on that for a second and we'll go quickly. And I know we've already heard some of that already.
As far as
how are you going to provide that access? So much.
Okay.
So I think one of the first thoughts that came to mind is getting information out there in as many ways as possible. So through having meetings, the video that you guys made is amazing. I think that will be really helpful. Getting things out in writing, of course. And then I think on the flip side of that, when you're trying to get input from your stakeholders and from all of the townspeople and all of that, again, having as many opportunities and as many maybe venues isn't really the word I want to use, but my brain sort of isn't working right now. But just providing that opportunity in as many ways as possible. So, I think they use thought exchange here. And so using that, allowing people to present ideas in writing, allowing them to share ideas and verbally in a meeting, as many ways as you can think of to sort of provide opportunities for people to share what they're thinking.
Lori.
I think we have a pretty good size voter population that is not at all connected with the schools, but tend to be a little bit more income limited. So I really think we ought to do a couple of mailings and maybe in some different formats. I think, you know, like this is what I say this, but we run into this as a board too. We're all volunteers here. You guys are, you know, we're all volunteers, but wouldn't it be great if we could all, you know, we could meet with the Lions Club, we could meet with the Rotary, we could meet with, you know, like we have several libraries, you know, maybe they have, you know, maybe we could go to a book club. I know the Bixby has a book club, you know. I don't know where we're all going to find the time to do this, but if we could, that would be a really good idea. Really good idea. And I also think it would be super awesome to get some kids involved, and maybe we could get some writing from those kids. Like, you know, that's another hard thing that's difficult. It's very difficult to do, to get students, and maybe not appropriate at some level. I just think student voice speaks very loudly. When we had a group of students come to our board meeting, last board meeting, it was amazing. And what they said has rolled around in my head ever since. And I can't be the only one that they affected like that. And I know probably our older generation and the generation that is maybe most needy for financial, the financial aspect of this, I think they would listen to the kids before they'd listen to us numbskull adults sometimes.
Sandra Lee, you have the spoon.
Thanks, Troy. For things to think about, if the merger study committee is going to recommend a merger, I'm thinking that question. I think it boils down to what schools are going to stay open, where are students going to go to school, and how much is it going to cost? You know, those are, I think, the questions that are always on people's minds when they're thinking about whether this is something they're going to accept. For those who have kids and have students, it's really going to matter to them to have a secure sense of, well, what does this mean for my kids? For those who don't have children and those who do still have children at the school, I think cost is a major question, and really highlighting what savings you're getting for changing things is going to be important. Those are my 2 cents.
Great.
Quickly, it has to be outside of this meeting structure. I think that limits people's ability to come, and so it almost has to be a step into their world to reach them.
I think that this is the greatest example of community problem solving going on in the state of Vermont. And we should say that. There's nobody else who's without, you know, the pressure of an Act 46 or something like that, of people just coming together to try to think to the future 5 and 10. I mean, who else is doing that? We are. So I think we should tell some more people about that. It's time to tell Chittenden County we're doing that. So we should brag a little bit about this work. It's good work. And I think that a couple of things, you're going to go ahead, you might as well go ahead and enter into the world of why don't you just cut central offices? We've got lots of data that show that we're pretty lean already. We've got lots and lots of data about how we've already seen many, many cuts to programs, and that when we start comparing ourselves to other places. So there's some deep data that the districts have that show the reasons why, or we're at this spot, and I think you should go ahead and be ready to bring that to the front.
Yes to all of that. And just to add that on the student piece, I think it could be really cool to get student input on a particular part of all of this is very complicated and might be hard to get really valuable student input on the whole thing. But it could be really cool to get student input, for example, on what would it be like to be in a 6 through 8 middle school, like asking middle schoolers specifically. Because adults can spin out on stuff. But it would be great to hear from them. So, yeah. But you guys know the Dog and Pony Show and all the places to go for that, so.
I have,
Good luck.
I have one last question of my own, really quickly. I'm going off script. But it came up a couple times and a couple things that somebody said. And my question is this, with these articles and something that goes forward that would get voted on, as board members, what is too loose and what is too constricting? I'm thinking about the people who will govern and do they want to be handed something that says, you're going to put 6th grade with 7th and 8th grade, or do they want, I worry about the tension between too much direction and not enough direction that the voters feel versus the too much direction and not enough direction that a board needs to make good educational and financial decisions. Does that, I don't know if I formed that in a question, but like, and I don't know if we can answer it right here, but I feel like from the boards, we have the boards here, that perspective of what's too handcuffing and what's too loose for this, if there is to be a new board to work with. Does that make sense? Any thoughts? Super fast, 2 words.
I'm thinking about it more from the perspective of how you articulate that to the community, which is to say that this group considers this to be a very not viable, or this path has a lot of potential. Like, so you might say, we think 6 through 8 and, or whatever it is, like, that's that board's decision, but this is a path we would encourage you to consider. Because then it gives people something in the community sort of envision, but it still gives the new board the freedom to make the ultimate decision, but there's a little more meat to the bones. But that's more the perspective of selling it to the community, not so much from the board perspective, so.
I think really quickly, I think, I don't think you should tell what a new board what to do with the middle and high schools, but I think you should lay out a timeline of when it can't happen. And then, I think there's something going on here in the school of attendance that I would look at. I don't know the answer, but I'd look at it again. Krista brought up some good points about that.
So mine just went blank. I'm gonna pass so that somebody else can. My mind just went.
Sandra Lee.
Hey there.
Just what I was saying there.
I do. You know, I do think you guys spent a good amount of time trying to give some concrete guidelines for the community schools, like you gave them the 4 years and the vote, so that people can say, well, at least my school will be in a certain place at a certain time, maybe not in a configuration I know yet, but that can be left for later. I agree on the middle school, high school. I think a big question is, so is my kid really going to go from Lincoln to Virgins for middle school, or are they going to go to Mount Abe? I mean, just something, because those are really huge questions that I think people have. I know I would if my child was a 5th or 6th grader. I really want to know. So that, do they have to, like, and how is that really going to happen?
Lori?
So I think that John, what Sandra Lee just said stuck with me, sorry. I think the 2/3 is rough. I feel like that's a handcuff. And I also don't think the articles should, I mean, I think we should talk about potential and not I think we need to get teacher buy-in if we're gonna bring sixth grade up into, if we're gonna change the middle school model, we have to have teacher buy-in. And so I feel like that's a handcuff as well. If we say we're going to do it, if the articles say they're gonna do it.
Thank you.
Okay, I feel really too new to this calling to give much input on this. I guess my only question would be, this is the question floating in my brain right now, is it the school board members that need the direction and the clarification, or is it going to be the members of the community that are going to seek that information more? And
Thank you.
All right, thank
Good
you
job.
very
Very
much.
much. Really nice
Well
to
done.
meet you.
Thank you. Yeah. Want to get suggestions for a name?
Nope, no time.
Out of time.
Matt Blacks, my man.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we gotta stay on task because Celtics play at 8:30 and some people have to travel. Thank you, everybody, for your feedback. If there are some things that you didn't get to share tonight, or you think of something after the meeting or on your way home or whenever, we've set up a thought exchange. And the thought exchange asks, what are some important perspectives you would like the merger study committee to consider about the proposed articles of agreement while finalizing? The thought exchange link is going to be posted on the ANWSD and MAUSD websites. It's going to be shared on Front Porch Forum and other venues. A thought exchange is a special and unique two-way process where participants can share their ideas on the topic and then rate the thoughts that others have presented on a scale of 1 to 5 stars based on how much they agree with the idea or how important they think it is. We believe that this process will allow us to identify priorities and themes from the responses. It will be live through June 5th, and the committee will review that and feedback from all other stakeholder outreach at our June 6th meeting. I think it's important for everybody to know that we aren't just having this board meeting to gather feedback. We are working with our faculty and staff, students and communities between now and June 5th. And we encourage everyone to view the video and respond via the thought exchange. Information about the video and thought exchange is going to be as many places as we can get it. Front Porch Forum, school communications, direct emails to stakeholders and like select boards and city government. So please go to either website and participate in the thought exchange. You can share anything you might want to share that you didn't get to tonight. Share new thoughts that come up once you've had more time to think. Share old thoughts that maybe you just need to share and you might think no one has thought of them yet, and rate the ideas that others have shared. So that is like the follow-up plan that we have going, and we hope that you'll visit the site and get on and participate.
Beyond the thought exchange, I'll talk about next steps. After we get the feedback from all stakeholders after June 5th, the committee may revise the articles based on the feedback we get from the community and stakeholders. We'll also be working on a report discussing the pros and cons of forming a union based on the articles of agreement. If we decide to recommend or not on whether or not to form a union, we will decide whether to recommend or not. And if we decide to recommend, then that we send a report to the state board. That will be for their July 20th meeting. And then the state board decides whether or not they agree with our recommendation. And then we would look at a vote in November on election day when most voters, there's typically a higher turnout. Our work's not done. I'd like to communicate to everyone, huge thanks for everybody coming together. We really appreciate everybody's input. This will help us so much with our work. We're going to continue our meeting after this meeting. about how to about our next steps in terms of the feedback you've shared. I'd like to ask the board chairs if they don't have any objection. I'll go ahead and take public comments, and then you can adjourn your meeting and we'll stay and have the rest of our meeting. So that's fine.
That sounds good, yes.
Someplace. All right. So is there anyone who's here who has public comment here in person? Okay. If someone who, oh, sorry, yeah, thank you. Can you state your name and?
Rob Backman from Lincoln. I didn't know if I could be recognized because we're here at the board. A couple thoughts I have. I think that the June 5th timeline is truly unrealistic to really engage with the community at the level that we need to engage with our communities at before holding your internal vote whether or not to recognize or recommend a merger. You know, you have to take into account the time of year. It's springtime, it's nice out. Folks are thinking about graduation, they're thinking about promotions. I'm not sure if people can really thoughtfully sit down and grapple with the consequences of said proposed merger, at least written in these contained in these articles. I would recommend that you guys consider giving yourself more time. Because I feel like if you push this forward at this rate, you're not going to reach all members in all communities. Not because people don't care or have opinions, they might just not have the bandwidth at the moment. And then another thought I have is, to me, a merger, looking at these articles of agreement, seems to put more power into fewer hands at the board table. And I just wonder how those folks are able to wrap their heads around what's going on at each one of our individual schools in a way that is truly informed, is truly responsive, and is truly efficacious at the end of the day to push towards the outcome that this committee has really hoped to see in a merged district. I think it would move the decision-making power further and further from the classroom and the professionals working with their students daily. And at the end of the day, when you remove decisions from the classrooms, the professionals working with those students, I think it inhibits equity in educational opportunities. It seems to me that this is striving for uniformity in the sake of convenience. And the foundation of equity is recognizing difference. And I really need to understand how this merger would recognize differences in our students, in our community schools, and promote better opportunity so that they all reach their peak level of achievement in our school districts moving forward.
So Rob, I'm gonna thank you. I didn't realize you were a board member. So this is time for public comment. We've had these groups to work with the board members. So if other people are board members, I'd ask that, you know, I know you've shared everything in the group. We've taken that in. I'd ask that you also use the thought exchange if you have other comments. But right now I'm looking at public comment. So,
no, I'm done.
the rest
Okay, I'll go
of
ahead.
other board members could
No, I got.
reserve this time so that we can hear from the public. That I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, Herb Olson.
Recognize him now.
Herb Olson,
Yeah, do you hear me?
we can hear you.
Okay, super. You know, appreciate all the work you've put in tonight. I don't know where to start. I'm not speaking on behalf of our Starksburg group. I'm listening in, and I understand you're going to make a decision about whether to recommend merger in a couple of weeks, or a couple of weeks or so. I would urge you not to recommend merger. I think there are a host of reasons to do that. I'll try to communicate that. We're just not ready to do this. We are not ready to merge these two districts. There are a lot of reasons for that. There are transportation issues. There are school closure issues. There are issues basically around the degree to which, school boards have been able to engender any trust in their community. I'm not going to speak to Addison Northwest because I'm just not that familiar, but the relationship in Mount Abe district, there's just not the trust to go forward with something like this that's going to impact kids' education. People are thinking the transportation issues, they're just fine. I don't think that people really understand what's happening there, or the geography and the demographics, in particular Starksboro, and how much harm that would cause. I think you need to, this is, pretty much been an exercise in how do we get to merger. And I think that's the wrong way to approach it. I think there's a lot of savings. I mean, I think we should do everything we can to save money. And I think there are opportunities for that, but merger is not the way to go. I know people hear, but I don't know that people listen. But thank you anyway.
Thank you, Herb. Brenda Tilburg.
Okay, if I was going to be a member of the public voting or not voting on the merger, I would not be looking at the draft articles of agreement. They're very nicely drawn up. A lot of hard work went into them, but that's not what I would look at. I would look at the details. For example, will the Mount Abe School be hosting the middle school or the high school? How will this merger specifically help the students? How will it help their parents? How will it help the taxpayers? We've just been through one merger, and now they're talking again about the prices going up. The mergers don't seem to have made much difference in previous cases for saving money permanently. So what details would indicate that a permanent savings would accrue from this particular merger? We would need to know things like, how do the buildings compare if we're making a merger? How do the sports grounds compare? Who gets the planetarium? Who gets the swimming pool? The things that seems that schools get hung up on are little things like, what will we call the mascot? The Commodore Eagle? Rutland has been arguing for 2 years over their mascot. All of these little things, there'll be half of the number of sports teams. Will the parents be pleased that only half the number of varsity baseball players, for example, will be able to play. Who gets the better auditorium? All of these little things will be entered in. Also, the transportation can be a problem as well. So if I was going to be voting on these things, I would be looking at those details. I wouldn't be looking at the draft articles of agreement. And it's the taxpayers, after all, who are going to eventually vote on the merger one way or the other. Thank you.
Thank you. William Mount.
There, I'm sorry, I couldn't get it unmuted. Can you hear me okay?
We can now. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Well, good evening. I guess my perception is many of the things that we've been doing, that the board has been doing, that we've been talking about in this community is trying to find a way to cut cost or to rein in cost. I think that I look at the disparity of the cost per student across the United States, ranging from, I believe, about $9,700 or $9,800 per student in Arizona, and up to where we in New York are at the very top. And I try to imagine, are we really 2.5 times better at teaching schools? We have 2.5 times better of an outcome than an Arizona or a Virginia or a Colorado. And I don't think that we probably are. I mean, obviously we have good schools. The question then becomes, what are they doing? What are they doing differently? How are they achieving their outcomes rather? How are they having the sports teams? How are they competitive at such a lesser cost than we are? And it, in my mind, has to be that there's a different approach altogether. This information has to be available. It has to be accessible that we can look at and go, you know, we may need a wholesale change in the way we do things, in the way we run our school, or maybe a different model even that mimics some of the things that other schools and other school systems across the country do at such a drastically lesser cost. I happen to know people from some of these areas. They're not unhappy with their schools. The Colorado schools, I know only 1 or 2 people in Arizona, but they don't seem to be very unhappy with theirs. Some of the Texas schools, Virginia schools that have less than the median cost per student. So I know that's not really an answer, but how are we looking? What are we just looking to cut costs, which I don't think we should be doing, because then that harms us? Or are we looking at a different approach to achieve outcomes in a different way that others are having success at doing, and does ultimately cost them and the taxpayers and the people that we've been discussing tonight, that have the older people, the limited income people, it gets them a more effective way to participate in society. I guess that's really what I'm saying. You know, it's, can we find a way to do things differently, not just to cut costs, but to actually do things differently and look at things differently, to find a better way to fund what we do to get the education for our kids.
Thank you. Amy Mansfield.
Hi. I just want to thank everybody for the time that they've put into this. It's really clear that a lot of work has gone into it. I think somebody touched on something earlier that I would really encourage you to make your report. There was mention to a report coming soon that outlines the pros and cons of a merger. And I feel like that's an important first step before these articles of agreement. I was a little bit taken aback coming to this meeting tonight, because it seems like it's already a decision that's been made, that there will be a recommendation to move forward with the articles of agreement. And that feels like we shouldn't be there yet. I think there's a lot of questions that came up for me from the articles that I think would be explained by, a summary of the pros and cons, and how you got to statements about transportation not being an issue. I think something else that I really would like you to consider is the suggestion or the assumption that the sixth grade would be moving into the middle school. And as somebody else has mentioned in our group, that's a huge shift. And that takes a lot of work and a lot of planning in order to be done well. And I teach in Middlebury, where we just moved our sixth grade into the middle school, and it has been difficult. And I would urge the group to really make sure that you allow enough time for that conversation and that planning to happen. A 1 year sort of pause or a allowing 1 year for things to stay as they are now and then implementing all these changes just seems incredibly fast. I'm also curious about just the timeline in general. So if this goes forward to a vote in November, and if it passes, is that 1 year status quo for the remainder of next year, or is it the following academic year? So just wanted some clarification on that. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Nancy Ambrose.
Hi, I'm from Virgins and I teach at the high school. I'm a little concerned about opportunities. I think Mount Abe and Virgins merging would offer more opportunities for both schools. However, there's still not the opportunities available at CVU, South Burlington, or the bigger schools. And I worry about us creating the lack of community for something that's not going to achieve what we want. Will it really save that much money? I'm partial to some of the people making sure we look at all those things. And why aren't we demanding from the State House that we truly do have an equity issue in Vermont that can be solved so that the bigger schools, because they have the bigger population and are from a city, can afford their schools? There's got to be something there that's not right. So I'm concerned. I'm also a graduate of Virgins. I've worked here my whole career, so I have strong feelings about the community. And I think it's great we've merged some teams and it's made things opportunities for students. As I said, I think the merger will have opportunities, but will it be the opportunities that we hope for and that will be worth what we give up doing this? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else, Sheila, that you see?
Not that I can see.
Right. I'm going to invite the board chairs to adjourn your meetings, and then our study committee will talk about next steps.
We'll let our guests go first.
So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the Mount Abraham Unified School District Board. So, all right, that's Krista and Steve. All right, all those in favor of adjourning at 8:08, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions? All right, we have adjourned.
Okay, a motion to adjourn. So Chris moves. Anybody? Gloria? And Mary seconds? All right. All in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Teresa.
So the piece of business for tonight is to work through plans for additional stakeholder feedback. And I shared with you, along with the plan for tonight, a plan for a draft of a plan for the June 1st. Do I have the right date? June 1st, faculty and staff and feedback opportunity and a community outreach plan. And what I'd like to do is just talk you through it and then come back and answer questions make decisions about the decision points that need to be made. I think if I stopped and made decisions at each decision point, you would be asking me questions about what else was going to be in the plan. So let me walk you through it and then we'll come back. And I think most of the decision points are highlighted in yellow in the document. So there is a draft memo of invitation that could come from Mary Kate and Martha. It invites all employees to attend a Zoom meeting on June 1st at a time to be decided on, with the link and the passcode and information about the goals, which are the same as the goals that we summarized tonight, and a link to the draft articles of agreement. Expressing appreciation for the time, and then it poses some combination of 2 or 3 options for feedback after viewing the video. One is the thought exchange. Sorry. I lost a return somewhere in the document on my copy. 2 is a suggestion you can take or leave, and that is to say that for questions specifically related to employment matters, inviting people to email questions to one of the teacher reps on the committee, and they can synthesize the questions and share them anonymously with the committee members. I'm happy to help with that. And then we'll work on a timeline and process for answers depending on what the questions are and what your decisions are and all of that. And then the third option has some choices embedded, and we could offer either a virtual breakout group, or you discussed last time meeting with a committee member in person. And if we wanted to offer that option, we'd have to establish a time for that and a member and their location and put that in the memo. And then the rest of the memo reiterates June 5th, you're important, and to learn more, you can visit the websites or attend our meetings. And for the virtual event, we need a producer. Maybe Sheila will do that for you. We would need somebody to introduce the video and then someone to exchange after the video to explain the thought exchange and whatever we decide for input opportunities after the video. And if we're going to do breakout groups, we just need to assign hosts and note takers. Drafted an event script, which can be changed and put in the voice of whoever accepts that responsibility. So there's the welcome and intro script. And then there's the feedback opportunities script, and we can tweak that to explain how they transition to an in-person or a virtual breakout group if that's what you want to do. So that is, oh, and in breakout groups, you can use the circle questions or you can do popcorn, depending on what you think. And popcorn, for those of you that are teachers, people just raise their hand and get called on. For community outreach, we drafted a blurb that invites people to view the video and go to this thought exchange through June 5th. We can work with your superintendent's admin teams to get it to select boards, the 2 district communication committees. Liz and Keith have already, thank you, accepted the responsibility for figuring out student input by liaisoning with other people or doing it yourself, and they will fine tune the process based on their knowledge and experience of the processes for student voice in their schools. And we certainly can do the traditional school communication pathways, and probably would do that through Glory and central office staff as well. If there are other specific Kevin mentioned in a comment, some other specific places we can email them. We can revisit that and make decisions about that. All the other logistics, I think, are set. Everybody got the draft articles tonight. They're on our websites. Are they on our websites? I haven't checked. I will check. I'll make sure that those things happen. They're already linked in the communications. We had a hard copy for tonight. The video's done. The thought exchange is up. So that is kind of the outline of the tools for the next step of communication. And I would like to go back to the beginning, if that makes sense, and start by saying, what time does the faculty meeting need to start, given all that?
3:30, I think.
3:30. Yep, I highlighted it because I wasn't sure that's what you wanted. You want to, what's your preference? Virtual breakout groups, in-person breakout groups, no breakout groups, and send them to the thought exchange?
My opinion is that we need some sort of breakout group, like exchanges there.
Yeah, I feel like if we were just going to do thought exchange, there's no need in bringing them all together. It's a waste of their time.
Virtual breakout groups?
Or in
So we're
person.
gonna offer both.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally up to you.
Where you want
I
to
just
go,
don't-
where you're comfortable.
Yeah. So we need to have enough bodies.
We need someone in every building.
Yep.
Plus extras, and then
By about 3:40. So I took the liberty of assuming.
I will be here.
Do you have a location where you want to meet people?
I can meet them here.
Library.
Yep.
I can be here with you.
Yeah, if we don't need to spread people. But yes,
Yeah.
I would welcome extra since it's bigger here.
Who else can be at a place at 3:40?
I can go somewhere.
Go to Ferrisburg.
I can go somewhere
Tell me where. We'll put it
close
in-
to Heinsberg, Starksboro,
Starks,
Moncton.
Starksboro's Robinson.
Mhm.
Troy, you're at Starksboro at 3:40. Can you work on a location? What's the location?
like a room there.
Yeah. Can we just use
Library.
libraries everywhere
Library.
in every school?
Can you hear me? This is Steph Ross here.
Unless there's after school programming.
Hi, staff.
Hi.
Yes.
I can do Mount Abe.
Did
I
somebody
can
say?
do Beaman. I'm just worried about my ability to get there. You go to school a lot later.
Oh, wait, I can't, because you're still.
What do you have, fourth block?
What?
What do you have?
Fourth block.
Yeah, fourth block.
It's the last day.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, no, you know what that day is?
Community for Unity Day.
I can go.
So you're at Beaman?
And if you have trouble, Sarah, I'll cover.
Okay, thanks.
Who had Ferrisburg?
Erica.
Do you want me to, or?
I need Bristol, Lincoln, Moncton.
Did someone say Virgin's Elementary School?
Jen's elementary. is on there.
Oh, I put, sorry, where did I put it? I didn't even have it on the list. I had Virgin's once and I thought that was it.
Into my document.
Who's got Virgin's Elementary? Carol?
Okay, but
I have
I'll,
a young lady turning 6 that day that is expecting some magic to happen.
You might be in trouble.
Right amount of hoopla right there.
She loves mountains.
I'll come here with you.
Yeah, please, that would be great.
So I'm still looking for Bristol, Lincoln, Moncton.
I'll do Bristol.
I think you might already have it, Tracy, but I'll be out.
Jeff and Dustin,
Steph.
Lincoln, Moncton.
Liz
Liz has got her hand up.
I can do Lincoln. I can be at Lincoln.
Okay. Anybody from Moncton?
I mean, I guess I can do Moncton and have Ed go to Beaman.
So Sarah, I might be able to do Moncton. We have a game because they're gonna be pairing, so.
Okay, let you
So-
be it and then I'll be your backup and we'll shift.
Okay,
Does that work?
Sarah, Ed, Mary Kate, cover that combo.
I'll just tell you where you need to be.
Yeah.
Do we want to do a virtual or do we just, that's a lot of effort.
I think we should do a virtual.
Okay, so
You mean a virtual breakout or a virtual?
virtual breakout.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Who do we have left?
What about Bristol Elementary?
Bristol, I have Kevin.
Oh.
And who had Beaman?
Either Ed or I are at Beaman.
Is there anyone that's not here?
It depends on what's happening with Mary Kate.
Brad,
Okay.
where are you going?
And remind us what we're expected to do at these places.
Yes, we'll do that.
Is there anyone we're missing that could be assigned to the virtual?
Brad.
I could do the virtual, but I'm not the.
Yeah, I feel like it should be a committee member.
Well, if Mary and I are both.
Okay.
Brad will do the virtual.
I don't mind doing a virtual either.
You can't do everything.
She's gonna run around. She's got this.
Actually, I think you probably can do everything, but you say yes to everything.
All right. I don't.
There you go. Let me help you say no.
Okay, so you're gonna, and so who will be the producer? Sheila, will you?
Yes, I will.
Awesome. Is there someone willing to do the introduction?
I mean, should we do, that'll be virtual. We can do the same as we did tonight. Martha and I can,
Mary Kate and Martha.
yeah.
All right.
And that'll be at 3:30, that part. Okay.
So can I just review, because I'm easily confused. I go to Ferrisburg and meet in the library with whoever of the teachers and staff want.
And bring chocolate.
That's excellent idea. And then we all together in the library watch video, or each person individually signs on.
They will have watched the video. They'll sign on to the virtual meeting
At 3:30.
at 3:30.
At 3:30.
They'll hear an intro from Mary Kate and Martha. They'll watch the video, and then they'll hear instructions for how to give feedback, which will close with, you may stay online for a virtual breakout group, or you may go to your school library where a committee member is present to meet with you. Okay, so then,
Or
Can I
you
s-
may do thought exchange.
or you may do thought exchange and or.
Can I say that back?
Yeah.
So you're gonna have everybody on Zoom to begin with and share the video.
Introductions.
Introductions, share the video,
Video.
all the boilerplate with preamble. And then there will be a virtual room or go to the library or a room in the building.
Library.
At that point, do you need Zoom anymore, or is this just a?
Nope, that's totally in person.
And I add that we can have the video set up in the library also. So people could be participating from their classroom, or they might convene in the library, and we'll take care of the technology. I'm speaking for you here, but to have a centrally located Zoom, so everyone like this could be here watching this.
What's the typical time we have teachers for? If we start at 3:30,
4:15.
4:15. So 3:30, the video is gonna, and introduction is gonna be 20 to 25 minutes. I would recommend that you not introduce everybody on the committee.
We're gonna
Just-
do a quick introduction then.
Yeah, okay. And there's some walk time, which would give you 35 minutes for feedback. In the feedback context, remind people that if it's really work-related, email, please. And then what's your decision? Do you want to do popcorn or do you want to use the circle questions? You always have the circle questions.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Popcorn it
I
is.
love it. I don't even know what.
Just write it all down.
I like.
I just want to reiterate a point. So this is our last meeting until this meeting.
Mhm.
So it is my understanding that I am not to answer questions that are beyond the scope of,
What your name
Refer to
is.
the video.
yeah, basically, because the message has to be the same for everybody. It is, I am not there to interpret or answer or say
Right.
something that may or may not be true.
Yep, what you can say is, it's really great that you asked that question.
And
Now
write it
I know
down.
it's not
Yep.
clear. I'm
Okay.
bringing it back to the committee.
So we are there to basically absorb and record information.
So we're our own note takers.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Just hit record on your iPhone and
We can dump our, what we learn.
Will you create one?
No, I'm practicing saying no.
Good job. I can create a Google Doc.
Great.
That's what
The
you want.
location.
share
for us to
Google
do our
Docs.
stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So can I have a suggestion for the introduction? So on that document, there were 2 goals. Can I also add, just based off of the conversations tonight, just to be very clear about the fact we're not going to project how the merged district would be run, and those decisions will be made in the future. This is talking about the articles, just to set those very clear expectations at the beginning.
Great. I'll update.
And short.
It's a really nice sky behind that direction.
I know.
Yeah.
Have the teachers gotten the articles?
No.
They're linked in the memo
Yes, okay, then
that
it's
you
gonna
will
go out,
send.
and I'm gonna.
Okay. We've got that part, All right.
And I'm assuming you'll just send the memo to Tracy, or to Sheila and I, and we'll get it out from
It's
there.
in here. I'll polish it and I'll tell you it's ready.
Erica has a question first.
Steph?
So after the first, each one of us will post our notes to the shared document, and presumably the virtual breakout room notes will also go there. And will we have a way to post notes from today also in the same document?
Sure.
And then on the 6th is our next meeting, right?
Yes.
And so that's where we will take all of these notes and all of this input and suggest revisions and also begin to write the report.
Yep.
If we haven't set the agenda yet, but yes, we recognize that synthesizing feedback, revisiting your articles, talking about the board is on the agenda as well. And yes, we need to be moving into writing reports. Last time you asked me to start writing the unfun parts, the summary of your work on housing and population. And so honestly, all I've done is this. I haven't started that, but hopefully I'll be able to make some progress on the kind of more factual stuff. And then we will begin to talk about the pros and cons analysis and a report and recommendation.
Just my immediate reaction to today is we really need some kind of projection about what happens if we don't merge. Like, that seems to me the biggest question. Like, why are we doing this? We need to know what would happen if we just said, yeah, it's fine the way it is. Let's just keep going.
Yeah. In my popping around, I definitely heard some of the things the misconceptions that you've identified that needed to be addressed are still out there. I heard that.
Steph has her hand up.
Steph.
Thank you. For the sake of clarity, are we, I guess, are we planning to have the superintendent send out information about the articles and the video? Basically, I'm asking if superintendents will be in charge of getting information out, or Should people in school start that? Or, I mean, from an equity standpoint, does it make sense to have it all go out at once?
We'll get it all out at once in cooperation with the superintendents. But I would say after June 1st, everybody's encouraged to regularly remind people to engage in the thought exchange, in particular in whatever methods make sense in your stakeholder groups that you interact with. So reminding your peers at faculty meetings or whatever it is, school boards that you serve on, to please engage, select boards. So that's the last thing. We talked about a direct email of this invitation to the select boards. Getting this to the same blurb to the community district communication committees and inviting them to do their thing. Students are taken care of. All the school communications will be taken care of. Are there other places that you want to be sure that on behalf of the merger study committee, the message gets sent? We'll work with.
And feedback gets received.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Liz has her hand up.
Oh, first of all, Liz has had her hand up.
Go ahead, Liz.
One is that I have two questions. One is that I wrote handwritten notes tonight, so I didn't know where I should enter those. And then the second is that a group member of ours had a really good idea about a mailing. So sending a mailing out to everybody across both districts at some point with all of the information.
What about a flyer? I mean, can we create some sort of flyer?
Are you talking about before June 5th?
No, I think it's right. We're collecting this information. It will help us with the articles. It will also, it is informative to us too about what information people don't have and need, or misinformation. And so we need to do that piece as well and get that out before the vote, but I don't see us doing that before June 5th. Right.
We have different populations we're dealing with. I mean, the teachers and students here contain, you know who they are and get it out to them. Rob's point was pretty well taken, that, you know, if we think we're going to get meaningful input by June 5th from the community at large, I think we're somewhat misguided. We might get some of it, but it's not going to be, I wouldn't think, statistically.
And the bigger question, I think, beyond that is when and how do you get broader community? Because there's always,
well, of course,
there's always a hurdle from the multiple things I've been on.
No, I know, I get that, but today's what?
No, I understand the short window that we're talking about right now, but.
Long weekend coming up and.
Yep, but then it's gonna be summer, and then it's gonna be starting school, and then it's gonna be Christmas, and
But we're getting promotion.
no, I understand, and I understand the 5-day window, but there's never, ever, ever an onus on the general public to engage.
Well, and to add on to that, I also think we've been doing this for how long? Like, and there's been meetings that they can come to, there's public comments, there's articles in the newspaper. There's a lot of things that have been getting out the information, and they can engage in that way also. So I feel like there's been information out there. So I get that it seems like a short window, but the information has been there for a while. It's been on community, front porch forum and those sorts of things. So I always feel like, yeah, we need, it feels like a short amount of time, but we've been doing this for how many months? So
13.
Thank you.
I wondered if we, I mean, my brain is going, and if we could get a little flyer with a thought exchange for some people that may not have access, and, you know, I'm happy to drop some off at Armory Lane Senior Center, or I don't know. I think that demographic, every single one of those people will come to the polls and vote, regardless, even if it's to vote on a red shoe or a blue shoe. Those people vote, and I think that's somehow we need to maybe get a hold of Age Well. I'm just thinking out loud of how we can. get
Maybe
the
not a
word-
mailing,
But,
maybe a targeted.
well, I'm thinking of the
Invitation.
seniors right now.
So I'm thinking, I think we're talking about two different things here, possibly. We're talking about developing enough input to guide us on the articles, and that doesn't need to be 100% of it. And then we're also talking, and my mindset too has been along, how do you get the information out to inform the voters?
Yeah, and we're not there yet,
Yeah, I
right?
know, we're
'Cause
not there,
we gotta.
But I want to get their input. I want to hear from those people that had the Panton Stonehouse one-room school and had to come to Virgin's when it closed. I want to hear what they have to say.
Sky is even better.
That has her hand up.
Right behind you.
Steph,
I'm just curious, are we going to be able to get student feedback before school is out on the 14th? And just those last few days for planning purposes, many schools are doing big celebrations, so it would need to be really before June 10th.
go ahead, Liz. Did you want to speak to that? And Keith?
Personally, no, I have not reached out to those people yet, so I'll talk to Sheila and I was thinking of reaching out to
Gabe.
Gabe and
Gabe and Monica, I think, have already drafted. I might be making this up, but I think they already drafted circles for at least the middle and high school groups. And then we talked about 6th grade and, the very little kids. I think it would be hard for them to fully understand what you're asking about, but middle and high school, I think, could offer some feedback. And so I think they had started to draft and we're thinking about doing that on an upcoming early release day. But again, I could be.
And again, we're hoping for that by.
Wishful thinking about that.
Yeah. And Liz,
Oh.
do you have anything?
So then I will talk with Gabe and Monica and we'll try to do the same thing at Mount Abe so that it's equitable.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I think that's.
What else do you need, Tracy? So, select boards,
Lori said she'd handle that.
all right, that's right.
Numerous email contacts, so
Right.
she's a little under the weather, but as soon as we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out, whether or not she's healthy, quickly or not.
Do you need anything else?
No.
Just one more question because I'm a slow learner. The breakouts that we do in person, will we use these same circle questions or will we
No.
have?
Popcorn.
So people raise their hand. and
Oh,
they
so this
shout
is just
out.
free form. They're just gonna pepper.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they'll want to leave by 4:15, you're not gonna have quite as much time. But if it's flat, use your questions.
Yes.
These.
Yes. If
I doubt it's gonna
use
be
your
flat.
questions.
Go ahead, Justin.
Otherwise they wouldn't come.
On you first, after like everyone in the faculty at 3:30 sees the video and everything, is them coming to the breakout session? Is that an expectation that they all come and do that? Or is it you can go do the thought exchange and if you want to speak to somebody in person, you're going to the person?
Yep.
Second,
Yes.
All 3 options.
just wanted to confirm it. Just
Yes.
prepare myself for what.
And realistically, from a time frame standpoint, it'll be probably about 4 before folks are showing up to the in-person debrief, right? If we start at 3:30, it's about a 20-minute video. There's a couple of minutes of introductory comments, and then it
takes them.
it can be the room next door. It just takes groups of people time to migrate down to whatever the space is. So probably
3:30, the soonest we can start if they're not traveling.
we can
think
start probably
that's-
closer to 3:15, but it's.
I think it's safer to,
Can we say 3:25?
We aren't, if somebody wants to leave at 4:15, they can leave, like, we're not holding anyone
Right.
back.
Yep.
They're on their own.
Becomes their choice, or it's their choice anyway, I guess.
Okay.
We just can't expect them to stay past 4.
Right.
We have a firm cutoff for our own departures, just so that it's set for everybody, so somebody's not there till 6 o'clock answering questions.
We're not answering questions.
Or not, yeah.
Writing down.
So I need, second guessing start time.
Well, I guess just my question is, doesn't school end at 2:50?
Yeah, Mount A, we start our
elementary.
meetings at 3 PM
Right.
on Wednesday. So 3 PM is, we're good to go.
I think starting earlier than 3:30 would be beneficial, only because, yeah, we're here in the building. We usually start our meetings at 3:05. So
I'm just worried about the other schools. So let's say 3:15 then, just to be safe.
And elementary schools will be ending, elementary school days end a little bit later, but they end.
Does that still
3:05,
work for
3:10.
all the facilitators, 3:15?
Latest school, still Moncton.
3:15, I think is, they're all right around that 3:05 dismissal. I think 3:15 is possible, and it's about as early as they can start. And that's usually when faculty meetings start, is 3:15 to 4:15. So.
Okay, 3:15 it is.
Okay.
They usually stay until 4:30 is what I heard.
Okay.
All right, you don't,
No
you're
later
good,
than
you have
4:30.
everything you need. So I'm gonna take out the whole school board section and simplify this, update it, make sure you all have it.
Put it, send it back to us, put it at the top of my email.
Yes. Yes. And work with Sheila and Pat and their team on everything else, and you have to do nothing but spread the word to friends and family about the video, watch the video on the website and do the thought exchange.
I guess my
But if we, on Facebook, we can't comment, right? I mean, there's some rules and I don't know what they are.
You as committee members?
I shared it on my own personal Facebook page. There's gonna be 560 comments, but I can't interact, but I can share it, right?
What if we just post it from like our respective Facebooks and then you could just share reshare the like posting?
That's better.
Right, but then we can't comment, like, right?
I mean, if someone asked a clarifying question, I think you could.
If you share, whether you were sharing it personally or from the ANWSD webpage, people are gonna comment on it. So I think Martha's just asking, she just has to say, I'm a committee member and I can't comment.
No.
I can collect your feedback, right?
Yeah, so I think it's kind of back to that question Troy asked about when we're meeting with the faculty. This is also our opportunity to gather information, get questions, listen. And so I think that's what we're doing. If all of us are commenting, then there's no consistency and we run into that same problem.
I'd say that's a great question. Please put it on the thought exchange.
So we can share it to like parent groups on Facebook. Things like that.
Sure. So we'll create a post on the, like, on the ANWSD and you could just reshare that.
So I'm thinking that the end here, we need your voice is good verbiage to throw out on front page forum. Up with that.
Okay, just let me polish it.
I'll send it to you.
You'll have it.
So I guess my question still is, I think the short turnaround now is the real sticking point. Because if we're gonna go get all this feedback and we want the feedback and we want to hear, and if we think we need to get to more places and hear what people are thinking beyond, because the woman from Addison made a really good point. We're hearing, you always hear the people closest and the most involved. That's who you hear. You don't hear the other 88% of the people not talking. And I think her point was that we need to hear what they're saying and how that might solidify some decisions that we make as a group, whether to recommend a merger or it might negate and change any decision we have toward a merger this way or put any thoughts we have this way. And I just feel like there's probably a huge amount of people we're not hearing from. And that's what I was trying to say to Brad is like, I don't know how we hear from them because we had the same problem with the bond vote. Like we gave every possible opportunity known to humankind to engage people. But the thing we kept hearing was, we don't have any information. And I don't have an answer for that, but I'm just trying to not have that be somebody's complaint that we don't know what's going on or we don't know what's going to happen.
Click here for swim lessons sign up. Everyone will find it.
Yeah.
It's kind of
I mean,
tricky.
I think you're right. I agree with what you're saying. The problem, though, is that it's a different dynamic. In like the renovation committee, there were some, we did try to get out there, but there were some very specific things that were flashpoints for the voters. Second gen, for example, and that kind of
the swimming pool.
kind of torpedoed everything. But when you listen to our colleagues' conversations with Mr. Olson, there is a huge disconnect between Mr. Olson's communities and what the public perception is. I mean, people are, all the things that we were talking about tonight. I mean, people don't see it that way. They see it through a completely different lens.
Yeah.
They don't see that it's going to cost us more. It's going to reduce opportunities. What they say is, you're closing my school, and I don't have a school. So,
That's another flashpoint. Yeah.
Pushing the cart before the horse here. We're not getting the buy-in. Otherwise, the merger is just going to fail, in my view. But
Well, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I mean, the input we're looking for at this point is to make is really just to fine tune the language in the articles and decide whether we're recommending a merger or not, I suppose. I mean, I think where I don't think we're at the point necessarily. I mean, we're listening to the community, we're forming the articles the best we can to do what's going to be best for the community. So we want to listen and hear, but we're not at the point, I think, where we're trying to really get buy-in or sell something. I think that's a whole other effort that's going to come after we get this input and finalize the articles.
right. But we have 2 weeks to make a decision whether to recommend the merger or not.
But we've been spending months and months getting information. Keith, did you have something?
Regardless of how this turns out and whether we recommend a merger vote, whether if we do a vote passes, the articles that we're crafting now, like this conversation is not done. Once this is, if the vote is a no, or either from us or from the community, this conversation will continue as much as certain people would like it to be the end of this conversation. And what we craft here will be a reference point or a jumping point for whatever comes next. So as we collect feedback, even if we're of the mind that we're not going to vote yes, if we're of the mind that even if we do vote yes, there's a strong chance that vote won't pass, it's still in our best interest to craft what we think are the most reasonable and sound articles that we can, because they will be looked at and strongly drawn off, I suspect, by whatever is next.
Anything else? All right, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Troy, Brad. Everybody who's in favor, go ahead and watch the Celtics.
There's also hockey on.
Right, 10-1.
Nothing happens to the fourth quarter.
I know. The last 5 minutes, Troy, just the last 5 minutes.